Hello Year 12, welcome to another video. We are looking at the dot point 9.2.3.S4, so we're looking at something that requires the development of a skill. We're going to analyse information from secondary sources to compare and explain the differences of urine concentration in terrestrial mammals, marine fish and freshwater fish. Unpacking our dot point, we got to look at our verbs. Our verbs are analyse, so this is make some critical assessments of information in order to determine their usefulness. Compare and explain. So comparing generally needs to have some sort of table produced, and explaining requires a cause and effect, or the purpose of something, a purpose of a feature. And we're looking at the differences of urine concentration in these three different types of animals. Alright. So, I saw in a previous video on water that you guys have seen a table like this before, or a picture like this before, discussing tonicity. This is a very relevant concept for this dot point, and so you should be well aware that when we say isotonic, we mean an equal amount of water going in and an equal amount of water coming out of cells. In a hypotonic solution, you have excess amounts of water coming in and not any water coming out, and the way that I always remembered that was the hypotonic kind of blows up, the O, big cells blow up. So that's a nice way to remember that one. And then you've got hypertonic, you have too much sugar in the solution, so you are hyper, you're a bit skits. Another nice way to remember it. Anyway, so this idea of tonicity is pretty key. Alright. So let's look at the environments of the animals that we're looking at today. Terrestrial animal environments may look like this. I mean, terrestrial just means land, so it can be pretty much any environment. But if we're looking at Australian environments, this one might be a little bit relevant. You can see just from the picture that you have dry areas. You have trees that have adaptations to conserve water. So it's a pretty dry environment. Over here you've got fresh water, and over here you have marine water. So lots of water in these two, but there are different problems. So the problem in terrestrial is that mammals, they've adapted, their kidneys have adapted just through evolution to produce urine, and so urine is the mixture of water and urea, so you can't get urine unless you have water. So one of the problems that a mammal must face is produce enough or excrete enough water to supplement the urea without losing too much. So that's a pretty important problem to overcome. Freshwater, though, have the issue of having too much water in their environment, and their cells are too salty, so they are in a hypotonic solution. This fresh water is a hypotonic solution. So there's constant gain of water by osmosis. Over here we've got marine fish. The environment is far more saltier than the inside of the cells, and so water is frequently going to be lost. This is a hypertonic solution. So let's have a look at some animals. So it doesn't really matter which animal that you pick. This is what your research is going to be into, so you've got to try and find a name. You don't have to find named examples, but it would help in your research that you have an example to pull on. It just makes you, anyone who's reading this, reading your responses, makes you feel like you kind of own the knowledge a little bit more. So over here I've got my quokka, cool little animal. Alright, so most terrestrial mammals, including humans and our quokka, produce generally small volumes of urine, and it's relatively highly concentrated in waste such as urea. So small amounts of urea, and that's really yellow, because it's the best way to describe it. Alright, so we've got freshwater fish over here, and while I was looking for pictures of different fish for this presentation, I like this one because his mouth was shut. And this is important because these freshwater fish don't drink, because they're getting so much water from the environment pushed into through their skin into their cells that they actually just have to constantly constantly urinate. So constantly urinating, producing large volumes of water, but their kidneys aren't getting rid of salt, because you don't want to get rid of salt in this environment. You actually are absorbing salts from the environment in their gills, so the urine barely contains any salt wastes. So that's a pretty cool function. And when we talk about the nitrogenous wastes that do have to be removed, because they have so much fresh water in their system, they can just produce ammonia, and it gets flushed out, and it gets flushed out through the gills. So it's a pretty significant adaptation for freshwater fish. Over here you've got our marine fish, and you'll notice I found a picture of the it looks like a cod of some sort. So someone who's a fisherman will know better than I would. But anyway, mouth is open. All right. So what happens is the animal drinks a lot of the water, keeps getting that water flushing through the system, but it produces a small volume of urine. That's in order to conserve water, and it doesn't contain many wastes, and because ammonia and salts are excreted from the gills. So generally small volume, not many nitrogenous wastes or salts. Just because they have organs, if you live in a salty environment, you're generally going to have an organ that helps you actively secrete salt. So that's a pretty cool feature there for those particular fish. So if we threw this into a table, looking at the animal, the environment, the urine concentration, and why, we have this. And what I'm noticing in class, particularly with my class, Miss Skelly's class might be different, is that we're not really getting into the writing mode, and I think that's slightly concerning. So I want to make sure that when you produce these tables, that you practice getting them into getting information from them into good sentences, the sentences that you can use in either an extended response or in a section where it's not really appropriate to draw a table, So let's have a look at this. Alright, so using the first one of the terrestrial mammals, so have a looking at the sentence that I've constructed here. We've got terrestrial mammals, bam, such as because you did some research on it, you pick out the quokka, live in environments that have unpredictable water supplies. So we grab that from our table here. Now I've used this little bit of language here. This is causative language. So you're linking two statements together. So you're saying because of this, alright, our explanation, most terrestrial mammals produce, alright, low volumes of highly concentrated urine. Yay. This adaptation, so you're telling me what it is, helps these animals conserve water. So we pulled that from our table as well. So I mean that's a really, not trying to pat myself on the back, but that's a really solid response to a question about, say, describe an adaptation that a terrestrial mammal has to conserve water. Bam. Solid. Alright, you've got it all from the table here. You need to be able to reproduce answers like this, and it's about including information that you're bringing to the table, causative language, technical language. Alright, you just need to kind of string these together a little bit, and as you practice this, you'll obviously get better at it and more confident. And another good study skill to have is to share your written responses with your colleagues, because what that does is expose you to the different types of sentences that you can construct. And what that means for you is that you build your bank of usable language. And so I think that's something that you should all get into the habit of, is writing and sharing it. Alright, that's me signing off.